What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Pro Barbell Strength Podcast, the ultimate resource for drug-free powerlifting. I'm your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, and I want you to hit that subscribe button right away so you don't miss a beat. Now, in today's episode, we're going to discuss how to cut fat and retain strength. But before we get started, I want you to head on over to probarbellstrength.com/strong to pick up the first 4 weeks of my signature strength building program, the New York Strong program. It's a program that I designed. That's how I got strong. So I want you to head on over there. You pick up the first 4 weeks for free right now. That's right, free. So you're hitting PRs every week in training. Deadlifts are going up. The bench is at new heights. And when you squat, every weight feels like 135. But then you get that glance in the mirror and you notice you look 3 months pregnant. Come on. You know exactly what I'm talking about, guys. You want to look better, but you don't want to risk losing your precious strength. So today I'm going to teach you how to lose that pregnancy belly and still hit PRs. Guys, so many powerlifters I know, they swear they don't care about, I don't care about my arm size, I just want to deadlift more. And, for practical purposes, I get it. But at the same time, don't lie to yourself and tell yourself you don't want to look better. Because, again, we usually all started in the gym because we want to look better. And I think that if you ask anybody that question, I think anybody would say, yeah, I could lose 10 pounds. I know if I asked someone that, I'm sure they would say yes. I know if you asked me that, I would say yes. Even though I don't think I need to, I probably would say, yeah, you know what, 10 pounds less of fat sounds good. But being able to do that and retaining strength is the ideal, and I get it. No one wants to lose their strength. So I kind of want to teach you guys how to do this the proper way so you don't lose your strength. So for my first powerlifting meet, I actually didn't take my own advice and I kind of dieted down. And I know I said in the last podcast, if your first powerlifting meet, not to do that. It's a big mistake. And I didn't take my own advice in that sense. I went from 195 pounds to 174. I literally could have stepped on a bodybuilding stage. I was stage ready. That's how lean I got for my first contest. Because in order for me to make that weight, that's just where I had to be. So I ended up, I actually did no bodybuilding meets, no bodybuilding contests because no shows really lined up with a meet. So that's kind of why I didn't. But ideally, that was the goal. But there was no shows lined up with meets. But anyway, I managed to still break PRs and win meets while being stage lean. Again, as a precaution, I would not recommend dieting down to single-digit body fat. It's definitely not ideal for powerlifting. But, like I said, losing some unwanted fat has been shown to actually improve performance and improve health. I know. Who cares about health? But, at the end of the day, we should. It's important. So one of the things I noticed, again, when I talk to some powerlifters is that they pretend not to care about how their body looks. Some of them may say they don't care about their biceps or their belly. And you can't tell me 100% that you agree with that, So before I begin, I want to talk about changing leverages. When we diet down, our leverages change, meaning there's physically less of us under the bar. So for example, when you squat, there's less belly in the squat. So when you squat down to depth, your belly gets in the way kind of. That's your leverages. When you lose unwanted body fat, those leverages change. When you bench press, when you're heavier, you bench press, you actually decrease your range of motion. So you're making your range of motion shorter. When you lose weight, you're increasing that range of motion because now there's less fat between your forearm and your bicep. There's less fat between your shoulders and your bicep. And there's more fat on your back. So actually when you're actually pressing with a less range of motion. When you lose body fat, you're essentially losing the fat all over your body. So there's going to be more range of motion. It's going to require you to do more work. So generally, whenever you diet, those leverages are going to constantly be changing. So that's something that I want you to keep aware of. And I'll explain more in depth why in a minute, but I just want you guys to understand that you have to keep that in mind, and it's extremely important to diet down slowly because you have to get used to those changing leverages. So in other words, if you went on a crash diet and you lost 20 pounds, your leverages are going to change overnight like that. And that's not necessarily a good thing when it comes to retaining your strength. Because remember, like I told you, we're trying to retain strength. We're trying to look better and retain strength. So this is why the slower we lose fat, the less you feel those leverages change. So you don't want to risk losing muscle by crash dieting. So I just got to keep all that in mind when I talk to you about this. So these are the rules that I'm going to lay out for you guys and the steps to do this But again, doing it properly to not lose any muscle, to lose unwanted body fat, and to minimize those changes in leverages that you're going to feel no matter what. But it's going to minimize it to the extent. So let's dive right in. So step one, we need to figure out your starting stats. So we need to figure out why you want to lose this weight in the first place. How much? That's the next important question. So why do we want to lose this? Okay, I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to look better for a wedding. Or I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to go on vacation. You got to keep that in mind. Or I want to lose 10 pounds and diet down to the next weight class. These are all reasons why. So how? How much weight do we need to lose? That's extremely important. So if I want to lose 20 pounds, and then I know, okay, I have 20 weeks to do that. You want to average. I'll go over that in a second. I'm jumping ahead of my own point here. But you need to figure out your starting stats. So again, taking your body fat, taking your measurements, all these things are going to be key, important in starting out. You want to make sure you have an idea of where your body fat is at right now. And again, you want to be keeping track of your weight because that's going to be an important measurement in this whole endeavor that we're going to encounter. All right, so step number 2 is setting a realistic goal weight to get to. So again, we have to formulate a plan to help you lose that unwanted fat. So again, if your goal is to lose 20 pounds, it's going to take you roughly, as a general rule, in order to not lose any strength, you want to aim to lose anywhere between half a pound to 1 pound a week max. And again, we really don't want to feel those changes in leverages instantaneously. We want them to come slow. So by losing anywhere between half a pound to a pound, you're less likely to feel those leverage changes. Although, one day you will go to put your belt on and you'll feel that it's in a notch, notch in, which might not necessarily be a bad thing, and I'll touch about like training and stuff. I don't want to jump too far ahead of myself, but, that's just what you got to keep in mind. You got to keep in mind that those leverages are going to change. So that's the max that you want to be at. So again, if you want to lose 20 pounds of pure fat, it would take you around 20 weeks or so to do that. And again, the nutrition audio portion on my website, probarbellstrength.com, explains to you guys how to figure out your macros, and where to go from there, what macros you should be hitting. I'm not going to touch on that in this podcast, but that's the resource that you need in order to get to the next level. And again, it's important to hit those macros 100%. It's one thing to set all these numbers and all these goals, but it's another thing to follow through and hit it. So one of the things I recommend, making sure that you keep yourself accountable somehow, use something like MyFitnessPal or, My Macros Plus. Those are all great macro counting apps. Just make sure that you check in every day, make sure you're hitting those macros every day, make sure that they're a T, because you have to be able to understand what's going on. You have to be able to make sure. So again, hit those macros 100% and keep feedback on yourself too. This is not actually a point. This is kind of like a side note here, but you want to keep as much feedback as you can on yourself. So weigh yourself every day. Every morning after you go to the bathroom, number 1 and number 2, if you can. If you can't do number 2, don't worry about it. Just after number 1. But the main thing is being consistent. Get on the scale, weigh yourself, see where you're at, and do that every day because you want to watch those daily fluctuations. I take my body fat in the morning. I use a bioimpedance, like one of those handheld units. Just for me, that's just the easiest way to do it, and I just keep track of that number every day. So I could tell you if my bulk is going well, if my cut is going well, I'll be able to tell. But these are all the markers that you have to keep track of. Same thing with powerlifting. You keep track of the weights you use, the sets you use, the reps you use. You got to keep track of your body statistics in order to see if you're moving in the right direction. But again, it all falls down to and comes back to starting with the nutrition and making sure that you are hitting those macros 100%, because 70% of our results are going to come from our nutrition. So that's something that you got to keep in mind. All right, so step number 3, don't stop your training. Don't stop changing your powerlifting training. A lot of people go into training and say, okay, I'm doing a cut, so now I got to go lighter, I got to do more reps. That's beyond BS. Whatever built muscle is going to retain it the best. Same thing with strength. So whatever worked in the off season is going to work to peak you. Whatever built the strength is going to keep it. So you can't change your training. Training is static. Training never changes. The only thing that's going to fluctuate is your macros. So if you're eating 4,000 calories in the off season, let's just say, and you're dieting down on 3,000, well, then that's where those numbers are going to stay. Your training it doesn't matter if you're eating 4,000, 6,000, or 2,000. Your training is going to always be consistent, level across the board. You don't want to change your training. Again, that's the one surefire way to lose muscle, and that's not the goal. The goal is to retain as much muscle as possible and even build muscle if you can, dieting down while losing body fat. So that's really, really key. Don't change anything in your training. Like I said, training should always be static. Your training is going to be your kind of stimulus to tell your body to build muscle and to build strength. So you got to just keep that in mind. Don't change your training. Okay, step number 4. I want you guys to keep your cardio to a 0 unless you absolutely have to do it. So a lot of people think, okay, I got to diet down, so that means that I got to do some cardio. And while that might not be a bad thing, it always comes back to why we do things. So we're powerlifters. We want to train for strength. That's our goal, train for strength. So cardio is kind of counterproductive to what we're trying to do. We're trying to build 1 rep max strength. You know, in cardio, you're doing anywhere between 10 and 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes of cardio. Is that the same? Can that help your powerlifting training? No. You know, it's good for overall health, but I don't recommend keeping cardio in there while you're powerlifting training. If your main goal is powerlifting training, then that's what you got to worry about. That's what you got to focus on. Doing too much cardio will actually cause your body to break down muscle, and that's not what we want to do. So again, you want to focus on trying to keep cardio as minimal as possible, keeping your fat loss coming from strictly diet only. Now I say keep your cardio at 0 unless you absolutely have to. Some people have a stubborn metabolism and a slower metabolism, so sometimes they need to add in some fat to jumpstart the process. But don't start out right away with doing an hour every day, because what's going to happen is you're going to start to get burned out from your cardio, and you're not going to be able to complete your weight training, and that's going to take away from your strength training. And that's not the goal. The goal is to put 100% focus into your strength, not into your cardio. So what I would recommend doing if you do need to do some cardio is, again, always start the diet with 0 cardio. Don't do hours and hours upon starting. Start with 0, and then after a couple weeks, if your calories are low enough and you're not getting anywhere, then maybe adding in some cardio in there to help speed up the process. That's definitely a good option, but try to get away with it as best as you can doing 0. I've done, like when I dieted down from 195 to 174, getting contest ready, I did 0 cardio. So you just got to keep that in mind too. You want to try to make it all come from the diet and not from the cardio, because this will allow you to put all your energy into your training. Step number 5, and this is a key step here, is to make sure you have patience. A lot of people, they diet down and they have no patience. You know, one day of dieting and they think they should be 5 pounds less the next day. And that might necessarily be the truth. Some people can lose weight fast like that. Others can't. So you really got to learn to develop patience. You know, this is one of the things that I mentioned in the bodybuilding episode, was that bodybuilding taught me patience. So you have to be able to have some patience. Just because you've been dieting for 20 weeks, you know, you have to go back and look at all your stats. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to lose 20 pounds. Again, half a pound to a pound a week is ideal. So any progress within that range is ideal. That's perfect, as long as you're keeping your strength. If you're dropping too much weight too fast and your strength is going down, then you actually have to add some calories back in. You know, again, this is something that I talk about on the nutrition audio version of the pod, the nutrition audio on the website, probarbellstrength.com. But you want to make sure that you are, you know, dieting smart and just having patience. Sometimes, you know, you may not lose weight in a week, and then, you know, you look 2 weeks later and you lost 2 pounds. Well, that necessarily means you lost a pound a week. So you got to have patience. Sometimes it just happens like that, where all of a sudden overnight you'll drop 2 pounds when everything is static. But again, if you have everything under control, you're controlling your variables, you're weighing yourself every morning, you're hitting your macros 100%, you're sticking to your training. If you're doing those 3 things and you're in a caloric deficit, you're going to be losing body fat. It's that simple. And it just comes down to that simple thing. Calories in versus calories out. You just got to keep that in mind. Don't try to change it. Don't try to make things more complicated than they are. Just eat less calories than you're burning. If you normally eat 3,000 calories, 4,000 calories a day, and you're gaining a pound a week, if you cut that down to roughly around 1,000 less, now you're at 3,000, you should be losing about half a pound to a pound a week. It's literally that simple. But again, you have to have these metrics in place in order to figure that out. If you have no idea where you're coming from, you know, calorie-wise, how are you going to know where to start? So these are all things you got to keep in mind when you're trying to diet down to not lose any strength, because that's important. And again, having patience. Patience is a virtue. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse here, but patience, patience, patience. Have patience. Keep doing all the right things, and you'll be rewarded for your endeavors. All right, step number 6. Don't do cheat days. Again, this is a big stigma in dieting. Cheat day. Oh, I'm having my cheat day. I'm going to eat whatever I want that day. You can definitely gain fat from one meal. You 100%, if you go out to eat and eat whatever you want, you're going to gain fat for that meal. And that's counterproductive to what we're trying to do. Obviously, we're trying to lose fat, so we want to minimize that as much as we can. I don't do cheat days. I do agree that you do need a day where you have your calories higher that will boost fat-burning hormones. I recommend doing a 1 or 2 days a week of a refeed day, where basically you're going to add in roughly around 80 to 100 grams of carbs extra on top of what your total is, and you're going to just have higher carb that day. That's generally a good way to do it. I recommend starting out with once a week. I really don't think you need more than once. Some people with a fasting metabolism get away with doing it twice, but I believe once a week is ideal. Again, and that's a controlled day. A cheat day, you just generally tell someone, no holds bar, the lion's out of the cage kind of a thing. And I don't want that. I don't want you to eat like you're going to the electric chair on that day. I want you to have everything in control, because again, the more we can control, the better your results are going to be. So again, if you know, okay, I'm not losing weight, and you're noticing that your refeed days, your weight, that weight that comes on from your refeed days, because that's normal, kind of sticks on your body, well, then you know that, okay, maybe I overdid it on my refeed. I need to pull back the calories from that. And that's totally something that happens. It's something that I've done with some of my clients too. So you got to keep that in mind too. But don't do cheat days. Don't let the lion out of the cage. Focus on having those 1 or 2 days where it's controlled amount of food. And again, I recommend anywhere between 80 and 100 grams of carbs. Everybody's body's different. Some people can get a boost out of doing 50 grams of carbs extra. So you just got to keep that in mind. You want a refeed day to help boost those hormones up and not gain fat. And there's a fine line between the two. All right, step number 7. You want to keep those calories as high as possible. You want to lose on the most you can. So again, if you're dieting, if you're off season and you're kind of eating whatever, and you're at 4,000 calories every day, well, that's good. You have a bigger base of support to start from. That's the most important thing, is having that big base. I talked about this several times on New York Muscle Radio, maximizing your metabolism, how important it is to constantly be adding calories into the diet in the off season to help your body handle more calories, because that's important when it comes time to diet. So again, if I was eating 4,000 calories in the off season and I want to lose 20 pounds, if I just drop my calories from 4,000 to 2,000, well, I'm screwed. Initially, I may lose a lot of weight, but those 2,000 calories are going to catch up to me, and eventually I'm going to get to the point where my body plateaus and I'm not going to be able to pull from the diet anymore, because I need those 2,000 calories. So you want to make sure you have as much calories as possible. Now, at the same time, there's a give and a take here. You can't, if you're having too many calories, you're going to end up gaining weight. So you got to keep that in mind too. The other thing too is, again, going back to having patience, you don't want to just pull calories away from the diet every week. So let's just, for argument's sake, say you're dieting at 3,000 calories and you didn't lose any weight yet. Well, again, having patience, you would wait another week or 2. So now you're 3 weeks at the same calories. You didn't lose 1 pound. Okay, I got to pull calories out. So now you would pull some calories out. The problem lies is if you pull out too many calories, because then you're shooting yourself in the foot too. So I recommend taking away a little bit of calories, maybe like taking anywhere between 50 to 100 calories away from the diet, and just seeing what happens and watching the body respond. Again, having patience, that's a virtue. If you just pull 500 calories out, you'll start losing weight that way. But again, you don't want to be at the point you want to plateau. You want to keep your calories as high as possible. The more nutrients we're getting in, the better output we're going to get. And that's important too. Again, remember, our goal is to maintain strength. We don't care how we look. We just want to look a little bit better. But the main thing is we want to keep our strength. So you have to make sure that you're keeping your calories as high as possible. You want to diet on as much as possible, because the more fuel we put in, the better we're going to feel as we diet too. Now, step number 8. Once you're done dieting, so now let's say you reached your goal. You lost your 10, 20 pounds, whatever it is. Okay, good. Congratulations. You're there. Now, I want you to do a proper reverse diet. So basically, a reverse diet is basically walking your calories back up. So if you were at 4,000 calories in the off season, you dieted on 3,000. Let's just for argument's sake say you lost, by the time the diet was over, to lose 20 pounds, you were at 2,500 calories. Now you would reverse diet and walk those calories slowly back up, maybe adding 100 calories a week until you're back to your 4,000 mark. Now, doing that slowly as opposed to just jumping into it and saying, okay, I'm done dieting, let me go back to 4,000. When you do it slowly, you actually keep the fat gains off. You keep some of that fat gain from coming on right away. Because remember, when we diet, our metabolism is actually slower. It's not faster. Contrary to what many people think, when you diet that your metabolism is faster, it's not. It's actually a lot slower. So when we add back those calories in, our metabolism starts to kind of pick up a little bit. So now we get to 4,000 calories again. We're leaner than we were when we started. And that's the goal. Now you can keep some of that body fat off and you maintain a better metabolism throughout the whole time. So that's why it's important to properly reverse diet and really, really take that diligently. Be smart about it, because you made all this progress dieting down. You want to try to maintain as much of that as you can. So again, adding it in slowly will help keep those gains and kind of solidify your progress. As simple as that. All right, and step number 9. Don't rely heavy on the supplements to make you lean. This is the whole adage of going into GNC and telling the guy, yeah, I wanna lose body fat. Okay, well, you need this, and this, just to make a sale. Supplements they're good, but they help maybe 1 to 5%. That's the difference that supplements make. People have been losing weight, gaining muscle, gaining strength since before any supplements were around. People used to literally take raw eggs, and milk and make protein shakes out of it. That's what they would use for protein shakes. So you don't need supplements to make progress. Supplements are there to make your life easier. And yes, we have made some advances since then, like protein powder, for example. It's a perfect advancement. But then sometimes the protein too is spiked and it's not really what it says. If the label claims it has 25, it really doesn't have 25. That's another story. But don't rely heavily on the fat burners and all those other garbage things you're going to take to try to help you get that 1 to 5%, because if your diet's not in check and you didn't do any of the steps that I listed here, you're not going to get anywhere. So don't go into GNC and tell the guy you want to lose body fat, because you're just going to walk out spending $500 for all that stuff to end up in the toilet. That's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be expensive urine that's going to come out from that. So don't rely heavily on the supplements. Don't fall for schemes. There's no such thing as quick fixes. Like the same thing, no such thing as a get-rich-quick scheme. Usually those things don't last. Same thing with supplements. Can't get lean too fast, can't get big too fast. It's because you have to learn the process. Remember, if there was a supplement that you could take and lose 20 pounds, if you didn't know how you lost that 20 pounds, you'd never be able to keep that 20 pounds off. We don't have a problem in this country, in the USA, keeping dieting. That is not a problem. We can lose body fat. It's keeping the weight off that is the problem. So you got to be smart when you diet, and you have to learn. This is why it's important to take those metrics that I talked about. Take your weight every day, no matter what. If you're gaining, losing, don't even know what you're doing, get on the scale every morning. Make it a habit, because you got to know those numbers. That's the feedback that your body's telling you. It's important. I even take my blood pressure too. I don't take it every morning, but I do take it sporadically. I probably take it maybe once a week. And again, just for overall health. And then I adjust things with my diet accordingly too, because again, you got to think of longevity. And anything you do, you got to think of longevity. So if my goal is to be a powerlifter, the best powerlifter, I have to focus on being healthy in order to be the best. You have to look at it like that too. So you got to, again, use those metrics. Pay attention to your diet, because the diet's going to tell you it's going to be the key to tell you what you're doing. Pay attention to maximizing your metabolism. After you diet, focus on keep adding the calories back into the diet in order to keep pushing the envelope there. And have patience. That's really, really important too. And don't change your training. Key, not changing your training. Because again, if you change your training, that's a surefire way to lose the strength that you gained. All right, guys. Well, that was the Pro Barbell Strength Podcast. I hope you guys are enjoying these podcasts. Again, I like recording them for you guys. I just want to hear a little bit more from you guys. So hit me up on Instagram. I'm at AB Fitness. And again, make sure you head on over to probarbellstrength.com. Pick up one of either my audiobook or my signature strength building program to support the show. Again, I don't get paid to do this for you guys, so that's a way you can guys kind of give back. All right, guys. Anthony Bevilacqua, Pro Barbell Strength, and I'm out.